Imagine your data, AI data to be exact. Data comprised of billions of pulses of light that travel over and across the internet, carrying information derived from intelligence that is critical to your business. If your business relies on real-time data delivery arriving at a second's notice without quick crash or system failure, Supermicro is the clear choice. Delivering extreme performance with Petascale all-flash NVMe storage to support proven architectures for AI and ML workloads, with leading software-defined storage platforms. If you're an enterprise business, government agency, or in the education and research sector building a public cloud, private cloud, or generative AI supercluster, there's only one choice. And that choice can only be exactly the best.
Hello, and welcome to this session of the Supermicro Open Storage Summit about AI and the future of media storage workflows, innovations for the entertainment industry. I'm Rob Strechay, your Managing Director for theCUBE Research and your moderator for this special session. In today's episode, we're going to really be diving into the fascinating ways AI is transforming the media and entertainment industry. The impact of artificial intelligence on this field is far-reaching, and while there's no simple answer to how it will reshape the landscape, we can explore some of the profound changes underway. For instance, sports teams are leveraging AI to analyze statistics, helping them identify potential star players or make strategic decisions as they approach crucial playoff games. By training algorithms to understand selection methodologies, teams can make more informed choices, improving their chances of success. AI's influence extends well beyond traditional uses like rendering and noise reduction. One of the most promising areas is in the gaming industry, where AI allows for dynamic on-the-fly creation of new game scenarios. Another is for fans traveling to support their favorite teams can benefit from AI. Coordinating the travel applications, AI can plan a comprehensive itinerary considering factors like distance, cost, and personal preferences. AI's potential to supercharge the media and entertainment industry hinges on the effective use and accessibility of data. For example, player analysis or instant replays, fast access to storage and data is crucial. Imagine being able to compare a play from a current game in progress with one of a previous match, complete with statistical overlays and video comparisons. While we're not there yet, advancements in power processing, storage locality, bandwidth, and particularly with the advent of 5G, are bringing us closer to this being a reality. As we continue to harness the power of AI, we can look forward to a future where entertainment is more personalized, engaging, and accessible than ever before. Now, before we jump into the discussion, we would like to let you know that all of the materials that the partners are going to present today is going to be available on the session registration link on the website, thecube.net. The speakers will be also live on X to take your questions. For that, use the hashtag SuperMicroStorage2024, all one word, to ask those questions. Now, let me introduce our speakers that we'll be talking with. First off, we have Sherry Lin, who's the Storage Solution Product Manager at Supermicro. Then we have Paul Blinzer, Senior Fellow, System Software at AMD. Then we have Praveen Midha, who's the Director of Segment and Technical Marketing, Data Center Flash at Western Digital, and Skip Levens, Product Marketing AI Strategy at Quantum. Now let's hear from Paul to kick us off into what's going on in his world.
Thank you, Rob. So to start, to paraphrase Bob Dylan, the times are changing, especially for storage. One item is how this content that is produced is accessed. One item is for getting the new content indexed and tagged and everything, where machine language models, for example, help automate that process. But also for generative AI, you need to also feed the content into a language model that then is producing the new content out of it. So this is requiring terabytes of data and also changes the way of how the data is accessed. The other item that is changing is how the human input is processed. Like the workflow is augmented by using concept-driven natural language model, natural language type commands, addressing like how you want to structure the scenes or the flow of the content, and get the content retrieved, edit, for example, like some previous content that you want to counterbalance, for example, other things. And this requires a lot of like processing in the background in AI models that will process your language. Third, this all requires a lot of computational resources, not only on the CPU, so cores are important, but also like on accelerators. And of course, you have to get the data that is on your on the network or in storage devices off to where it's actually processed, like into the CPU, into the GPU, or into special accelerators like smart NICs and NPUs, neural processing units that do the inferencing of the data. And in order to make this all work, you need software. So the software itself is also very important because it makes everything actually play. And like open models and open software allows you to like use your content in a way interchangeably and add and build your workflow appropriately to get the data processed and the content out of it as you want it.
No,
Thank you.
I think that's great, and I think again when you start to look at this all coming together, that's really where Supermicro comes in. So Sherry, why don't you take us through what's up with Supermicro and how things are really, from a solution perspective, coming together?
Okay, sure. Yeah, thanks, Rob, and thanks, Paul. Great point. So as Paul mentions that the time is changing in media and entertainment, right? And Gen AI has revolutionized the media and entertainment workload these days. So I would like to talk about some storage requirements that we see in order to meet the demand of those modern workload. So a few points that I summarize here. Number one, we see higher performance need as the Gen AI has been commonly used in content creations and also post-production editings like animations, real-time rendering, and also virtual stage, virtual actor, etc. Storage server must be able to handle those intensive tasks in order to for those AI-driven workload. And number two is scalability. So as the image resolution increase and AR, VR has been commonly used and like more popular, the storage server has to be easily scaled in order scale up or out in order to kind of accommodate those increasing data volume and also complex project. And number three is the storage media solutions. So again, as the image resolutions increase and AR, VR, 8K videos, we not only need high performance storage requirement, but also the high capacity storage requirement. So the high speed storage media such as NVMe and SSDs, which will be used for a higher performance workload like a 8K frame rate workload or real-time rendering. But we also need the higher low cost and high capacity drives to keep those large media file. Okay, and for based on the Calling Associate report, it has a survey that shows around 40% of the storage media archiving still focused on the hard drive, and more than 25% on SSD, and then it's getting increasing as the NVMe price getting lower. And number four is the cloud integrations. So cloud integration become getting more important, especially after pandemic. We know that the remote collaboration has become a new norm. So hybrid cloud models with the storage server that support object storage is becoming more popular for its flexibilities and also ease of collaborations. And last but not least is the security, right? We know that those artwork are really intellectual properties. Like we need to, the storage server must be able to enhance those security measures in order to protect those artwork and IP. Yeah. So those are some key storage requirements that to meet the demand. And what Supermicro solution provide? Okay, so Supermicro provide the industry's broadest portfolio. As I mentioned, that we need higher performance platform to accommodate those high performance workload. So on the left-hand side, we have Petascale 1U16 and up to 2U32 single socket AMD, support up to 128 core CPU, and up to 6 terabyte DDR5 memory, and up to 32 E3.S form factor NVMe drive for large flash capacity. And in the center, we have the Hyper 1U up to 12 bay and 2 up to 24 2.5 inches form factor NVMe, and the Cloud DC 1U10 up to 2U24 as well, 2.5 inches NVMe for higher capacity workload, for higher performance workload. And on the right-hand side, for like a more capacity-centric driven workload, we have those 4U top loading 45, 60, 90, can be single node or multi-node. And if more capacity is needed, we also have different form factor and different drive bay count JBOD that the user can connect behind those servers. And for smaller scale need, we also have a smaller footprint for options. And we are not just providing hardware. We have partnered with many software vendors, storage vendors here to provide L10 solutions. L10 means we, on top of the hardware, we add a software layer. So it's a L10 software-defined storage bundle solutions. And if more larger scale service is needed, we also provide up to L12, means multi-rack integration service. Yeah, thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, no, I think that is really key, and I think, again, we'll kick it over to Praveen and kind of dive into the next level down as well. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
So, Praveen, why don't you take us into the next thing here and help us understand from your perspective.
Thank you. So, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Sherry. Since the topic is about AI and the future of media, I have two slides. The first one really digs a little bit deeper into the data cycle for AI, and more importantly, on the storage implications of this AI data cycle. And in the second slide, we'll take a step back and look at the impact of this on media and entertainment. Before we dig into the AI data cycle, I want to make a couple of fundamental observations. Data is fueling the whole spectacular growth in AI. And data, in fact, AI is all about data generation and data utilization. Data is important because AI systems process and analyze data. They also create new content. And in fact, existing repositories are now becoming even more valuable because they are being used to feed these large training and inference models. So I think the fundamental assertion we are making here is that we are in this virtual data cycle where there's existing data, we are using it to empower larger and faster models to train, and then that's being used for inferencing, which is generating even more content, and that content is being used as a feedback loop to create a new set of data that your AI model is being trained on. So we talked about the AI data cycle at a high level, but we've also broken it down into 6 stages: stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. Stage 1 is all about creating and archiving content. Here, quality and variety are most important. In stage 2, it's all about data prep and ingestion, and this is where you process data, you clean it, you transform it, and then in the third stage is where you actually start using this data to train your model. And this is where you need a lot of high performance from a storage perspective. I didn't cover the storage aspects of the previous 2 stages, but in stage 1, it's all about large, high capacity storage, which is mostly sitting on HDDs today. Although there is some SSDs also being deployed, mostly large capacity QLCs. But as you enter stage 2, which is data prep and ingestion, the focus is more and more on higher performance, higher capacity SSDs like 30 and 60 terabytes, which are the highest capacities available today, and WD has offerings there. For AI model, inside the SSDs are sitting inside the CPU GPU complex. This is where the focus is on performance. So now you're entering the performance density domain. You want to get the highest read saturation on the read sequential reads, but you also want the highest random read IOPS. And then as you progress through this, you go to stage 4, which is where, as you are building these models and you're iterating through your training, you are taking frequent snapshots of this model in memory and pushing it to the local SSD, and then periodically pushing it and flushing it all the way to the second tier storage, which is all QLC high capacity. And here the focus is on sequential performance. As you progress through to stage 5, this is where the magic happens, where you train your models, now you deploy them in production workloads, and you take real-time data and marry it with your model, and you actually make real-time predictions. And this is where, again, you need some random read IOPS as well as low latency. And then, of course, as you are creating new insights, you are generating new content, and this content is then being fed back into your data cycle. So that was all about just unpacking the overall AI data cycle and its storage implications. On the next slide, we are just trying to understand what that means for the media and entertainment universe. Like both Paul and Sherry have already talked about, between pre-production and post-production and production activities, every M&E's, every media and entertainment professional's desire is to deliver a hyper-personalized experience. And to supercharge that experience, you want to be able to deliver real-time engaging experiences that meld data, content, and be able to really personalize those experiences, be it across gaming, sports, travel, as you talked about. So as you're going through perhaps real-time rendering or transcoding, transcription, or perhaps doing sound effects or special effects, local language dubbing, you have the opportunity to use AI to really create help you with some of the cumbersome work, like transcoding or dubbing, but also create analytics and deliver personalized real-time experiences. And then, of course, there's this whole playout and distribution aspect of it, where AI can be used for targeting consumers based on their targeted experience, and perhaps have a very focused campaign on that. So I think that's what I wanted to capture in these 2 slides, and I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, no, I think, again, it's amazing how personalization in AI is going to change the entire supply chain for the media and entertainment industry, from production to all the way to getting it out. But I mean, at the end of the day, the data has to sit somewhere, the models have to sit somewhere, and that's storage. And Quantum's been in this business for quite a while. Skip, why don't you give us a view on what's going on?
Yeah, happy to. And first of all, let me say I loved every bit of that vision you sketched out at the beginning. So Quantum is building a storage platform not only for content production, but also for what this new generation of AI and ML content enhancement workflows looks like. So we're fortunate enough to work with some amazing customers, and each of these customers do what we call continuous content production, meaning there's a deadline and you cannot fail. So they're coping with all the content challenges that Sherry mentioned, and it's a nonstop deadline-driven sort of operation. Now, how do you lay AI and ML workflows into that? Because you're not going to do it in a vacuum. At least, I really recommend you don't. So, as we've talked with these customers, something that has come through very, very clearly is they need to simplify what they're doing. So the days of waterfall policy data storage, that's gone. And like wherever, and the other thing they hate is when I have a system for the animation team and one for the VFX team and one for this team. So now you've got to manage all those different endpoints. That needs to go away, and customers are saying, can we have one system? Is it possible to have one system that can do all this? So we've been thinking about this a lot, and we actually invented a file system to address this called Myriad. And it allows a lot of the things that Praveen talked about and Paul talked about. These different stages can actually work on the same storage, something that you can instantly checkpoint. And by the way, if this hardware looks familiar, we're really proud to use the Supermicro systems as a partner and Paul's chips inside. So we built the system that is NVMe, RDMA, point-to-point communication, but it integrates layer 3 intelligent fabric networking. So it's not just a file system, it's a file system and it serves everything in one. So that's the hot landing port, call it the hot landing zone for data, the ingest that you talked about, and how files need to come in quickly, and you need to do your production, but you also need to do your AI and ML operations on there. But at the other end of that barbell is like, okay, I'm not going to keep an exabyte of flash. That's probably needs to sit on the object storage that you're talking about. So again, hardware looks probably pretty familiar. So we have an object storage solution. So your workflow got incredibly simplified, and in the middle, of course, is where the magic happens, and that's where you have, not only are you using AI through all the steps that Praveen mentioned to build ML, but it may surprise you, they're doing it to automate operation and hit those deadlines faster and better. But the other side of the coin that's really exciting and where this is all going, yes, the personalization, but also to imagine an expert person who is able to tag and mark action in video. If we teach AI to do that, now that expert can go do something else and more intelligent work. So you're actually taking custom actions and building models for that, and you're surfacing all the content. You may have a 40, 50, 60-year archive of content. You're not going to pay someone to go do that. It's a perfect place for AI and ML to go do that work for you. And combining production and integrating AI and ML is exactly the workflow answer to that question.
Yeah, no, I think that to me is really a key, is bringing it together as a solution, because I think organizations don't want to spend time piece parting it out and things of that nature. But let's dive in a little bit deeper. And Sherry, let me ask you, what value does Supermicro really provide along with the solution?
Okay. So just kind of clarify, solution here I'm more referring to L10 and above, L10, 11, and 12. L10 means like on top of hardware, we put on the software layers like OS or any other software-defined solution software. And L11 will be like rack with switch cabling, and L12 will be like multi-rack integration. So what's the value that we added here? So we provide one-stop shop for customers to simplify their supply chain management, which means that we can provide software and hardware, and if they need larger scale for service, we have the rack integration. And number two, I think it's the hardware compatibility. That's why we partner with storage software partners to qualify our hardware platforms to ensure that the hardware work with software perfectly. And number three, I think it's the hardware compatibility, hardware selection flexibility. So unlike those appliance model, which kind of constrain the user to select only specific like OEM drive, we kind of provide more hardware flexibility for end user to select. They can either select their preferred brand, say for example NVMe, or they can select their preferred NIC, or they just simply choose something has like shorter lead time available to build their server faster, right? And number four, we preload the software on the hardware to save the trouble to install on-site. And last but not least, we provide the rack scale integration service from rack design, rack testing, integrations to deployment and support. Yeah, so that's a value that we provided.
Yeah, I think that's key, is that how do you make it simple for the end user, because
Right.
again, especially everybody wants to do more with less at
Yes.
this point in time. But Skip, why don't we kind of dive in a little bit more and understand, how do you see the future of storage evolving in, especially in AI workflows for M&E industry, especially with continuous growth of digital content creation and consumption?
It's, it really is. I mean, first of all, AI is such a rabbit hole, and it's so easy to get sidetracked. But over and over, what really surfaces is, how do I make my team, how can I use AI and ML to make my team, faster, more productive, more efficient, and let them go do something more interesting? But also, I mean, these are untapped reservoirs of content that is just a gold mine. It literally is a raw resource that can be refined. And some of them are really surprising. Like, say, for example, you've got a 40, 50-year-old clip, and you want to broadcast it, but maybe it would be interesting to find out, is anyone smoking in there? Because I have to put a little bug at the top of the screen. How can I find, you talked about imagining like a Mickey Mantle playing players today. That's an exciting use, but all of that has to come up from analysis of that raw content and data. So I'd say that the future is very exciting. There are so many applications, and it's letting creativity come to the fore is what this is all about.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on it, and I think Praveen in his slide actually talked about those different stages. And I think, Praveen, with the rise of AI in M&E, what opportunities do you see for storage media?
So we are very excited. I mean, we have been in this space for the longest time. We service different stages of M&E, all the way from capture, be it in the client SSDs, to production, post-production, as well as streaming. So we have solutions in both hard drives and flash, client and enterprise SSDs. Depending on the workload, we are able to service it with the appropriate media. And of course, like we talked about, the whole AI stages of the life cycle. Different stages have different needs from an I/O perspective, and we are able to meaningfully service those different stages with different media mixes. At the end of the day, M&E has a lot of opportunity to benefit from AI, like we were talking about object detection, real-time analytics, personalizing experiences. All of these require low latency, high performance experiences from a data I/O perspective. And we have the tools and the technology to be able to deliver those experiences. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely necessary, especially when you start to talk about it. But you really need to process this somewhere, right? And I think from a architectural perspective, Paul, what are the features of CPUs and intelligent accelerators do you see improving the storage performance of the media storage and management?
Yes, all my previous speakers already said, the growth is exponential in the AI space. So storage demands are high. The way of how storage is accessed is different, is much more based on throughput. So you need a solid foundation in a platform with the performance, scalability, and openness, because if your content is locked in a proprietary API or a proprietary model, then it's not your content anymore. So building a platform that is the foundation, both on the server side, on the client side, on the workstation side, all the way down to the edge, for example, it is important to have that flow being there and being able to scale out as necessary in those spaces, which requires solid high-performance CPUs, like AMD is providing industry-leading performance on the CPU side, but also like with our MI or machine intelligence accelerators, which, GPUs, for example, for the training and inference, to have your data, for example, put into a custom model that you can use it on-premise, for example, or if you want to put it out into the cloud, for example. And then, of course, when you have processed everything in your workflow, you will need to scale it out, for example, in different formats. You want to, for example, have like everything in AV1 or in H.264 and whatnot. And for those, you need accelerators that are actually able to transfer that with like reasonable cost and performance into the appropriate formats, which can be done, for example, with AMD's FPGA solutions. And all that is essentially like the end-to-end, where at each time, like the hardware is essentially bringing the workflow forward and supporting the workflow to make this whole thing more efficient.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think, again, it takes a whole bunch of silicon to get this done. I mean,
Yes.
there's no doubt about that. And you have the favorite little pet name for one of your pieces, which is chiplet. I just love them. I've seen them, and again, that's just a personal thing. But so to everybody, where do you see all the work being done for media and entertainment? I think it's across edge, telco. It's not only inside the data center. It's certainly not only in the cloud. A lot's being done on what would traditionally have been called on-premise, but on-premise is everywhere now, and cloud is an operating model, not a place at this point. Where do you all see this, transpiring? Skip, we'll start with you. How about that?
Love it. It's we find a lot of customers, the definition of what's edge and what's cloud gets really blurred. I mean, when you're a global entertainment, you've got London, New York, LA. It's like so. We're finding these customers need to process wherever. It can be at the edge. Let's say London captures it, moves it to an object store, but then perhaps LA needs to pick it up. So it's really a matter of blending all of these. And I mean, my favorite word for it is agility. You have to have this agility. I think Paul mentioned it, if you have a system that kind of locks you into a certain way of working, that may work today, it won't work tomorrow, because this stuff is changing so quickly. So yeah, I think the watchword is follow the workflow, hit those deadlines, but also keep agility, because tomorrow's needs are going to change.
Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Yeah, from my side, again, the scalability and openness and high performance is the key items. Like if you see, for example, a couple of years ago, nobody talked about AI. Now we're building like pretty much like, and there was like, when like a model could actually understand your language was already a big thing. Now we're processing videos like just a couple of years later. And that is like exponential growth that needs to be supported by the platform. You have to have the software scale with you. You have to have the platform scale with you. You have to have enough reserves that you are not locked into this generation and then pretty much like left out. And so the scalability and the flexibility to have like your platform going from server, cloud, to the workstation, to like again, edge and client scenarios is, I think, the key item. And again, high performance and like cost of ownership and scalability, like through new data fabrics, like new next generation PCI Express or CXL that is coming up in systems, is something that will be driven more and more, and like does more and more demands on storage. Like the storage has to deliver the data as much as the CPUs and the accelerators can consume it.
Yeah, and Praveen, I would assume that that's kind of what you talked about with the, when you showed kind of your slide and it talked about across the continuum, that there's different solutions for different places.
Yes, and I think you rightly said, Paul, that that cloud is an operating model. It's not a destination, right? So cloud means different things. It could mean public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud. We work with different vendors, different solution providers, such as Supermicro, AMD, Quantum, to really enable the customer on their journey wherever they are, be it at the far edge, be it on-prem, or be it in the public cloud. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I love the idea of far edge, and I think it actually ties into, again, Sherry, what you were talking about with your L10 through L12.
Yes,
yeah.
high-rack solution, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that would seem like if somebody was going to the edge, maybe they start with an L10 type solution and grow into.
Yes, and then they will be able to leverage the software piece, like to kind of transfer from fast tiers to the lower tier, bridged by the software piece. Yeah, to kind of make it more like easier to collaborate across the different geology. Yeah.
Well, I think, again, that was fantastic, and I think we brought home a lot of knowledge that will help the people in the media and entertainment industry understand how they're really going to deploy AI, and not just Gen AI, but traditional AI as they grow into these systems. So thank you for coming on board today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Also note that our next session will be the new hyperconverged, enabling high performance workloads for the enterprise on August 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for watching this episode, AI and the Future of Media Storage Workflows, Innovations for the Entertainment Industry. Stay tuned for our next session.